This time around, we're looking at Nigeria Air. The newly appointed Permanent Secretary of the Federal Republic, Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Ibrahim Kana, has clarified his earlier remarks regarding the revival of the National Carrier Project, addressing widespread speculation and inquiries. The newly appointed Permanent Secretary statement that he received a directive from President Bola Tinubu to restart the National Air Carrier Project was misunderstood, he says.
Now, although he said in his interview with the press that he had been given a mandate by President Bola Tinubu to revive the national flight carrier, he has also come out to say, and I quote, "For the avoidance of doubt, I never said that there is a mandate to revive the botched Nigeria Air deal with Ethiopian Airlines." While going back and forth, experts in the aviation sector have continued to wonder if Nigeria is slowly becoming a country that pats corrupt persons on the back for having squandered the nation's resources on budget allocation and denied the state of national development in the case, for example, of the former aviation minister. We're joined this morning to discuss, well, Nigeria's aviation situation and the possibility of a national carrier by Air Commodore Ademola Onitiju, retired. Good morning and thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for joining us.
Viewers.
Yes.
It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, I think, we'll probably just start with, broadly on the Nigeria Air project. I mean, I'm sure you followed the controversies that surrounded it when Hadi Sirika had, of course, promised that it will be delivered. And they launched some airline just before the exit of former President Muhammadu Buhari. And that eventually turned out to be, borderline, a scam. What do you think we should still be having that conversation as it is, looking at Nigeria's aviation sector? Is the Nigeria Air project something that we should really just put on, on the back burner for now?
Definitely not.
Why?
Like in your intro, you mentioned it as having been a scam. So if it is a scam, what are we doing with it? What are we waiting? What are we going to do with it? You are aware that the Economic Financial Crime Commission is already after those who were involved in it, and is still under investigation. It's also before a court of law. The facts are in the public domain that it was a scam. So if it is a scam, it's best discarded. As for the newly appointed PAMSEC Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development's comments, he has since corrected the view that it wasn't, say, a mandate. But generally, at the Aviation Roundtable Initiative, of which I am a president, we've always maintained that as desirable as a national carrier is, we have to be careful. We're not a nation that goes by rules most, if not all of the time. The experience of Nigeria in terms of government and business has not been palatable. There has been poor institutional governance, and on the other side, too, corporate governance principles are flagrantly disregarded. So in such an environment, it's bad business for government to be in business. Other nations that are still having national carrier, they have the wherewithal, and their priorities are minimal, so to speak. If you look at the Middle Eastern countries like Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and probably Kuwait, they are the ones that are really fronting for that. Even on the African continent, Ethiopian Air, they have over time perfected corporate governance principles. We lack that here. There are political interferences here and there, and failure to appoint boards as prescribed by law that are supposed to be the policy-making body for such institutions. We have not been doing that. But we can have a national carrier as an element of national pride, but make it private sector driven. You know? And,
yeah, but
presently.
So another thing to, I mean, that I feel is important to, we want to have a national carrier. It would make us look good, no doubt. It would maybe also be recorded as one of the wins and the achievement of, whichever government is in office at that time. But is it really a priority at this time? Like, if you look at what, Nigeria currently is dealing with, Nigeria's economic challenges, infrastructural challenges, there's so much, that we have piled up, that must be sorted out somehow, some way to make this country work. Will a national carrier come up in your top 20 things that any administration should attend to at this point?
Again, you are correct. It is not our priority. And again, you violated the issues. The aviation infrastructure is yet to meet what it ought to be. And that is the area we should accord priority. I've had the privilege to speak at a forum where the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, was, and I told him that yes, all these efforts you have been making, diplomatic shuttle to aircraft manufacturers, lessors, and many others, are going to be maybe a waste. Look back here. There is much more to do. There is need to improve aviation infrastructure, and there must be a deliberate government policy to grow the sector. Without that, the operating condition presently is harsh. I advocated alongside the association I lead, that is the Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative, that the government could bring down the price of airfare as a deliberate policy. All it needs to do is to partner or encourage refiners in the country, at least for now, being headed by Dangote, and now we are told that NNPC, Port Harcourt, and Warri are working, but we are concerned about those who have the capacity to produce aviation fuel. If you can reduce the cost of aviation fuel, price tickets will come down. If you can frontally address the issue of maintenance and its requirements of Forex, if you make a deliberate effort to ensure that foreign exchange requirements that are meant for the use of aviation industry are given preferential treatment, you could have a time frame to do that. Because the idea is get the aviation infrastructure in place, get the sector well organized. It catalyzes the economy, the growth and development of tourism, so many things, logistics. It puts certainty into planning.
All right.
And there is no alternative for it.
Okay.
So those are the things we've been advocating.
All right. We'd like to please ask, sir, if you can sit back a little so that the camera doesn't cut off your head from the shot, because we're only seeing from your forehead down.
Oh, okay.
All right, great. That works. Thank you.
Is it any better now?
Yes, it's much better. Thank you. Now, just to quickly ask, what are we ever going to get to the conclusion of the Hadi Sirika case, of what happened with Nigeria? Is there really going to be any finality to that? Would he be made to answer questions for that, or is that no longer important?
Unfortunately, we have developed a culture of absence of consequences for bad behavior. And it's there in the public domain. Institutions are not performing what they are supposed to perform. By that I mean, the judiciary and the investigative authorities, if they will come out clean and do things the way it ought to be done, and if there are consequences for bad behavior once it is proven, it would deter others. So it's difficult for me to tell you whether you get to a finality. Anything can happen in Nigeria, sadly so. But we need to chart a new course. Let's have a new beginning. Anyone that takes a country of over 200 million for a ride should be made to pay for it till proven and established using the due process of law. So I think that's my response to that.
Okay. And I'd like to also get a sense of what your thoughts are regarding how the aviation sector has fared so far, looking especially at the past year, 2024, and the expectations for what 2025 should look like.
From the consumer perspective, an average consumer wanted to pay maybe a relatively reasonable amount, but it has been astronomical, the increase here. And those are the things that we at ART are advocating, that government should make delivery policies that will enable the environment to be better for the operators. You can do that within a time frame. You can reduce charges, you can suspend charges, you can deliberately, like I said earlier, cost the price of aviation fuel for domestic operators only. You can cost them to introduce a discriminatory amount. You can still sell aviation fuel for 400 naira or less. All our negotiation, there will be concessions for such arrangements. And if they are paying less for fuel, which takes a huge chunk of their operating costs, and the maintenance too, you are deliberate in allowing them forex at fairly reasonable rate, as will enable them grow, because deliberate. You are the government. The entire Nigeria is your domain, and you are there to serve the people for the betterment of life of the people. So all such things, if put in place, it can be better.
Yeah, I mean, what advice would you maybe also give to the current Minister for Aviation, Festus Keyamo? Nigerians, of course, I know you did speak about this earlier, but Nigerians are still worried about, air safety and, ensuring that we continue to keep this record of no, safety issues in a couple of years now. But what advice would you give to Festus Keyamo?
I will tell him, like I've always said, the delivery policy to improve aviation infrastructure. We should upgrade and ensure that instrument landing system, particularly now that you are having a Matan system in the country, you should improve on that. You should cause NIMET as much as possible to be an integral part of the aviation industry by providing safe and accurate weather predictions and other meteorological services. You will empower it to be able to do that at any point in time when it is required. And like I said, safety, of course, we've been up and doing. I think you can commend the SAA for that. So far, so good, and the SAIP. But we can do more, like we have always advocated. We want, for us in the aviation roundtable, we are concerned that deliberate policy to improve these things rather than pursue revenue should be the aim and should be the objective. It's good it's done some diplomatic shuttle to make planes available. But when the planes come here, planes are meant to utilize flying in the air, not on ground. Schedules, sunset airports, improve them such that people can travel there and get there by 12 midnight or even later, especially the major airports, So if we improve infrastructure, all sorts will be possible. The aircraft available, flight delays will be reduced, cancellations will be reduced, and the consumer will be happier for it.
I think
the Nigerian economy will improve. Tourism will be better.
And that's the main complaint, really. What you've just highlighted. When it comes to consumer, as a consumer, the main complaint would be flight delays, flight cancellations, and the fact that some of these flight delays and cancellations happen, and there's really no refund, and the airlines will keep promising and promising. We've seen a number of airlines being called out on social media for not being able to keep up their own end of the their own end of the agreement. I mean, if you cancel or you reschedule a flight, it's not on the customer, that's on you. But yes, we're certainly looking forward to stronger policies being implemented to ensure that the aviation sector, is being held to higher standards. But so far, would you say Festus Keyamo is doing a good job?
Well, so far, so good, in fairness to him. So far, so good. But he could do more. That's it.
Okay.
Public office for service. Go there, render the best that you can. Do your bit, others will continue. So far for us, I think so far so good, but he needs to do more. As for the issue of the refund and all, the Consumer Protection Department and the Civil Aviation Authority are, I think, to a large extent, addressing claims of people. It is true, it's not been 100%, but at least it's a good starting point. But like I said earlier, absence of consequences, which has virtually become a culture here, is what emboldens people to do wrong things. If anyone does that, or if any airline does that, that is adequately sanctioned through penal compensations, because hardly, some of the time, you can hardly compensate the passenger who is afflicted in terms of probably if mother is sick, he or she wants to be on her bedside, flight cancel, you don't get there. Wedding for your daughter, flight cancel. You know, these are things that you cannot really quantify in terms of money. But then, if you are up and doing in terms of enforcement and protection of consumers, it will deter, airlines from such. But again, the environment needs to be improved along the lines I've earlier suggested.
Yeah, and of course, the cost of air travel is also something that, bothers many Nigerians, that of course, the consumers that you've spoken about. What possibilities are there of reducing the cost of air travel in Nigeria today?
The cost of travel?
Yes, the cost of air travel, yes.
I've addressed that. I told you that as it is now, the purchasing power has reduced for the average Nigerian. And like other sectors, government ought to deliberately address issues in aviation, call it aviation palliative, in the light of what I said earlier. By that I mean, it is done globally. You protect your economy. It is allowed. You could, like I said, Dangote is a good one for us. By that I mean the refinery, it produces aviation fuel, and then it's buying in Naira. There has to be that handshake, a strong one at that, by the government. You will cost Dangote by whatever it is to sell at maybe $300 Naira for local operators only. And you sort out the taxes, cost of production issues between yourselves behind the stage. When that is low, and you, to some extent, for a given time frame, if you suspend or halve the charges, aeronautical and navigational charges, and other facility charges that are being currently added to the bill, the prices, they wouldn't have a choice but come down because it's a delivery policy. You can grow the aviation sector within 24 months when you have such in place.
Well, the current administration has, I think, another 2 years. So hopefully they can do all that they need to do to ensure that the aviation sector at the end of this administration is a lot better. I mean, you say 24 months is enough time. I believe they should still have as much as that. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Air Commodore Ademola Onitiju. We definitely have enjoyed having you here with us.
It's my pleasure.